guys, you're like, what's the point of having people go before you in things if they don't share with you any of the difficulties or like non-linear aspects of the relationship? Because then when you get in, you're just completely disillusioned because you're like, you guys didn't tell me it was this hard. I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like being in my 30s, something just happens where you hit a wave of complete and utter disillusionment. And maybe this is just my experience. Maybe I'm alone in this. You can let me know. But I feel like being here in my 30s, I've been going through it for a while now, maybe for a few years, but I've hit this wave of complete and utter disillusionment. It's like disillusionment in like every single area of my life. Like disillusionment when it comes to career, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to ideas and structures that have been set up in my life for like as long as I can remember. It's like something happens where you realize that things are not the way that they have been set up to be or taught to you to be. It's like this reality just hits you over the head. It's like critical thinking kicks in and you start to pick apart and assess everything that's going on in your life, and you're just like going back to like high school and different time periods of your life, and you're like, why didn't the adults in my life at that time teach me that this is how it was going to be? Like, nobody told me about any of this stuff. And I'm just wondering why, because it's like, didn't they also go through the same type of disillusionment? So this is what I mean by disillusionment. I feel like I might need to get a dictionary definition, but I'll go at it. Disillusionment to me is like it's like you remove the glasses, like you remove the rose-colored glasses. You're kind of shocked into reality of what life is really like, what relationships are really like, what your career is really like. Like, you are faced with, let me get a dictionary definition. Be right back. So I just looked up a definition, and Oxford Dictionaries describes it as a feeling of disappointment upon the discovery that something is not as good as you thought it would be. Yes, so that is the definition of disillusionment. But for me, it's not that those areas of my life are not as good as I thought they would be. It's just that they're not as linear, they're not as straightforward, they're not as like, I have this in the bag, which I feel like society, my communities, family, friends, to people around me, like, we all bought into this idea that everything was a linear path. And it's really weird because nothing is a linear path, but it's like the people older than me were experiencing that disillusionment themselves, but like never told me. Like my teachers or my parents or people, older figures or mentors in my life never shared that. So here's a few examples. I actually wrote them down because I didn't want to leave out anything. So career, and I have shared this in like a couple other videos, but I honestly thought that when I was in high school that my career was going to be a linear path. I wanted to be a teacher, and I just thought, I just need to finish my high school. I just need to complete my 4-year like bachelor's degree, and then I will just apply to the teaching program and I'm going to get in. That's it. That's all I need to do. As it turned out, I applied once, didn't get in. I think I applied like twice and didn't get in. The third time I finally got in. Once I finally got in, I made it through 3/4 of the program and failed. I was told I wasn't ready yet. And then 7 years later, can you believe, I went back, reapplied for the teaching program. I did get in. I had decided that I wanted to get back in, and then from there I started doing some things that would elevate my application. And then I got in, finally got in 2020, COVID year, and made it through most of the program before COVID hit. Had to do the rest of the program online, which is weird because it's a teaching program, so you kind of need to be there with your students, but the rest of my program was done completely online, and I didn't even see my students ever again. And that's how my teaching career started. And then once I was in teaching for a year, I decided that I didn't want to continue being a teacher because the work-life balance was just too challenging and so stressful for me. I felt like I didn't have a life. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like being young. Maybe people told me different things along my path, but it's like, it didn't register for me that like most things, if not all things in life, are not a linear path. So yeah, and I know many people who are in that situation with their careers. Like maybe they've been working hard for this career that they want to get into for a very long time. Or even when I was in the teaching program, there were people like in their late 40s and 50s, like going back to school for teaching. And it kind of just shows you that this whole idea of things being straightforward and linear just isn't what life is about. And there is this like presentation that life is like going to be straightforward and linear, and that is the best way, that is the best path. And it just actually isn't linear, and it's not necessarily the best path, because there's so much I learned in my journey to becoming a teacher that I wouldn't have learned otherwise if I had just gotten into the program on the first try, or like if I didn't like fail the program the first time around. Like there's like I wouldn't have been able to teach like my future students about like perseverance and resilience and all of these qualities and character formation that I developed because I didn't get everything handed to me. So that's just career, but I feel like there's also disillusionment for me with relationships. Like what did I write down here? I said that relationships, there's this idea presented by like sometimes different communities you belong to or the media, that you meet this one person and it's earth shattering, and like when you know, and like that person is going to fulfill you completely. Like your life is just going to take off when you meet them, and it's just presenting this notion that there's not going to be too many challenges, there's not going to be that many difficulties, like you will just walk hand in hand into the sunset. And that's not the vibe that I've been getting from like any of the relationships that I've been in. So it throws you off. Like people have a lot of things that they need to work on. When you meet anybody, they have a lot of things that they need to work on. You have a lot of things that you need to work on. There's give and take. There are things that you need to surrender. There are things that you're going to be very tested and challenged by. There's things that you've been taught by your family, by the media, by the communities that you belong to, that just don't actually register in an actual living and breathing relationship. It's like, guys, you're like, you sometimes they'll be like, because I grew up like in a Christian background, and like sometimes at church there'll be couples around you and they don't tell you about any of the hardships. Like, what's the point of having people go before you in things if they don't share with you any of the difficulties or like non-linear aspects of the relationship? Because then when you get in, you're just completely disillusioned, because you're like, You guys didn't tell me it was this hard. Just like relationships are hard. They will, I know people say, oh, relationships, no, they're not hard. You know, they don't need to be so hard. They are hard. They're hard if you really get into them, like if you really like examine your own behaviors and why you said something the way you said, why you use that tone, why is something making you feel anxious or uncomfortable. If you really sit with yourself and examine how things in your relationship are making you feel, what's being brought up for you, what's coming up, what's rising to the surface, that's where there's a lot of work that begins. I guess like I can see a relationship not being hard if you just ignore all of those feelings of discomfort and things that come up for you. You just like, whatever. I could see it then not being hard. But if you're someone like me, I'm someone who's quite introspective. I'm quite a critical thinker, quite curious, and I want to understand things. I want to know things. So that's what can make a relationship hard, because you want to understand, right? And I know that there's an element too of letting go, but it's also the letting go that is hard. And then I feel like there's like disillusionment for me with like systems and structures that I grew up with, like the religious communities that I've belonged to. I feel like I'm on this path of like dissecting and like deconstructing and critically thinking through everything, and just realizing with the faith background that I have, and that some things are just no, that's not, like, no, I don't agree with that, and that's not the path that I want to walk. That isn't the way that I want to live. That does not bring me joy. That does not bring me peace. It actually makes me anxious. So there's a lot of things in my faith background, faith tradition, that I have been dissecting and uncovering and realizing, why are things that way, and why do we put greater emphasis on this over this, and just all these elements of Christian culture that are deemed to be the religion but are really just the culture. And then there are other concepts and notions in our society that I am also questioning that don't really make sense. Like one of them is beauty, like the conventional ideal of what beauty is, and how our minds and our eyes and our gaze are just trained in this kind of society, Western society, to look at beauty in one particular way, in a way that isn't deeper than the skin. Just some very like rigid ideas and notions that are in our society currently that leave very little wiggle room. Like for one of them is like, this week I felt like I had to take a day or a couple days off of my job because I was really struggling with my mental health, and I felt like guilty, and I felt like that was something wrong that I was doing, when it's like my mental health is part of my overall health, and I do need to take care of myself holistically. It's not just like my physical body, it's also my mind, it's also my psyche and my spirit. And there is this like notion or these structures in society that like there's a lot of like shame, there's guilt attached to things, just these feelings of like disappointment, or things just not being what you thought they would be, thinking that you're going to go down this one path and this is great and this is what I want for my life and this is what I'm doing and I'm so excited, and then all of a sudden you get like hit in the face metaphorically, and it's like, no, that's not what it is. I think we can have disillusionment about like our health, our physical well-being, our mental health, our life stages overall, the stages that we find ourselves in life, how fast time is going. Like sometimes you think that by a certain age, like by 35 or by 30 or 25 or 40 or whatever those ages might be for you, you would have accomplished certain things. Your life would have been going in a certain direction. Maybe you thought like, I would have had grandkids by now, and like none of your kids are even married, and none of your kids really want that path for themselves, or you thought that you would have met like a life partner by now, but it just hasn't happened for you, and you've been waiting and maybe even praying and sending out positive vibes for a long time now, and there's just no one. This disillusionment, it's the struggle is real. So more or less, I'm just trying to say that there is a great whooping disillusionment aura going on in my life right now, but it's not a bad thing. I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing, because I think for anybody who has ever gone through disillusionment, and if you have, please share in the comments, like, what are you disillusioned about? And I feel like there's other things in my life I'm disillusioned about, but I can't think of them right now, and I just shared the major things. I think going through a process or period of disillusionment is actually really good. I think it's actually eye-opening. I think it's actually awakening. It's enlightening. And it can like create a kind of renaissance inside of you. It makes you a deeper person, more profound, more more empathetic, more down to earth, when you understand that nothing in life comes quick and fast. Nothing in life, I personally feel, is a straight line, is linear, is like, I want it, I got it, like Ariana Grande. Nothing in life really works like that. When you understand that, when you know that, I think it gives you a greater appreciation for life, because for me, I feel like it helps me just be more grateful for my journey, for my story, for my path. It helps me be more grateful for introspection and self-reflection and critical thinking, and this beauty of dissecting things and understanding things for yourself and enjoying things for yourself, really getting the richness out of life that you can get. Because honestly, a lot of disillusionment is based on the illusions that have been set up in our society, the illusions that have been set up by our parents, by the media, by the communities that we belong to, by the religions we belong to. Like, just there's a lot of illusion that is set up, and it's like life does not really present that way. That's not really what life is, right? When you get into the meat and potatoes, the nitty-gritty of your daily life, you're just like, this is actually not how it is. And I think when you remove those glasses and you're able to see life fully, more nuanced, more complete, more rich, with all of the intricacies, all of the details, all of the character formation and spiritual formation that goes into it, when those illusions are removed, it is beautiful. It's hard, it's challenging, and if you're going through it right now, I'm with you in it, but it's beautiful. My name is Imo, and if you've made it this far and if you've enjoyed the content, please like this video, comment and subscribe to my channel if you would like to hear more thoughts like this. I want to thank you so much for your support, for watching, for participating in these dialogues. I would love to hear your story. What are you disillusioned about? Or what do you think of the concept of disillusionment in general? Yeah, see you again. Bye.